Alright, 4-2. So we are going to introduce the general ledger here. We know all about the general journal. We've been doing that all last chapter, and we've been entering these transactions, and they've entered them for us because we've been doing it so much, so that's nice. Now we are going to learn use this posting reference column right here. And we're introducing the general ledger. And what a ledger is, it's just a group of accounts. And the general ledger is the group of accounts that we use for our financial statements. And so these are all the accounts we're going to use for financial statements. These are our general ledgers. And so if I open up cash, which is the first one we usually do, this is what the ledger looks like. And so I'll talk about that, and we'll go through it and learn what it does and the purpose. But now we have a general journal and a general ledger down below, and we are entering transactions into the journal and then into the ledger. So first transaction, let's look at and see how we put it into the ledger. March 1st, paid cash as an investment. Not paid cash, sorry, we received cash as an investment from the owner, $5,000. So we debit cash and we credit capital. We have a reference number, a document number, a receipt, and now we're going to post that to the ledger. So we first put the date, which was March 1st. Now the posting reference we have down here on the ledger, and we have it up here on the journal. I'll explain that in a second. But we need to reference the journal, and so we're going to go G1 because it's the general journal and it's page 1. So we're referencing, these are two separate documents, and so we go from one to the other, just referencing it, saying, yeah, this transaction is on the general journal on page 1. And then let's look at debit and credit. We debited cash because we received it, so I'm going to put the $5,000 there. Now we're introducing on the ledger this balance. The reason that we need the ledger is because on the journal, if we put all of our transactions on the journal only, then we don't have a running total of our balances, the balance of our accounts. And so cash, we add $5,000 to it here, we subtract $660 from it here, we add $675 here, but we don't know what the total is by just looking at the journal or just entering transactions into the journal. So we have the ledger so that we can have a running total or a balance of our accounts. And so after we debit the cash account $5,000, that's our first transaction, and so our previous balance was 0, and now the balance is a debit of $5,000. And that's the total that we have in cash. So on the next transaction, I'll talk about how we increase or decrease that balance, what we do to keep track of it. So let's now close this. It will keep track of it, I hope. Yep, it does. So close that one. And next, on that first transaction, we're going to use capital. So go to the capital account in the ledger, and the account numbers are right here, 310 for capital, because it's an owner's equity, and all owner's equity have 300s number accounts. So the date, again, is March 1st, just like the cash. And the posting reference, again, is Journal 1, because we're referencing that journal page. And what did we do? We credited the capital by $5,000. So come over here to 5,000, or credit, and enter 5,000. Now the balance, it was 0 before, we credited 5,000, so it's going to be a $5,000 credit balance. So now we can close that because the next one's going to be prepaid insurance. On the third, I didn't even do the step that I needed to for up here, the posting reference. So when we're on the journal, we're referencing the ledger, and the account number is 110. So for cash, 110, that's the reference. If somebody is looking at the journal and says, where's this on the ledger, so I can see the balance and all the information, it's the account 110, and they'll pull up 110 account and they can look at it. Okay, capital was, where'd it go? 310. So the account number is 310. We're going to reference that 310. Okay, now we can move on to prepaid insurance. So close this one, go down to prepaid, account number 140. Let's put the date in there, March 3rd. March 3rd. The posting reference again is G1 for General Journal number 1, page number 1. And as you can tell, all those posting references for this assignment is going to be G1 because they're all on the same page of the General Journal. Okay, prepaid insurance, $660 is a debit. So we're going to put it right here, and now the new balance is a debit of $660. Okay, one more thing I need to show, and then I'll let you, I won't do all of these on the video because it'd be a 20-minute video, and you get the point after a few of them. So let's go back to, oops, I didn't do my posting reference on the journal. That would be prepaid insurance, $140, right there. Now cash, we're going to go get cash again, and we use this one quite a bit. As you can see, there's lots of spaces for it. So on the 3rd, we also use cash, and we credited cash, which means we paid it for prepaid insurance. So we credit it $660 after putting the posting reference, of course. $660, we credited it. And now this is kind of a tricky part. We had a debit balance of $5,000 and we credited cash $660, which means we decreased it. So we don't just come over here and put $660. It's not just a duplicate here, putting it twice. That would be worthless and a lot of work. So instead we are doing a balance, and so we had $5,000, we subtract $660, so our new balance will be $4,340, and so we know that, but we don't put it in credit either. We keep it in debit because the balance is still a debit, meaning we still have cash in the account, we just have less of it. After subtracting $660, we have $4,340, but the balance is still a debit. So as long as we have cash in our account, the balance is going to be entered on this debit side. Okay, so that's kind of tricky, something we got to be aware of and remember. All right, let's just do a couple more. Let's close that out and go to the cash. Oh, I didn't reference it. 110. Let's go to the supplies ledger account. Okay, the date on this transaction is the 4th. So March 4th, posting reference again is G1, and we are entering a debit, of course, because it's first, supplies, debit of $78, and the balance is going to be a debit of $78. Okay, next is the accounts payable account. So we'll go there. Let's skip down to this cash, and let me show you another example of entering the balance. So on the 8th, here's our next one, reference G1. On the 8th, we used cash. We debited cash $675. So we put it in the debit. And then our balance now, we added $675. So our new balance, if you add it up, it will be $5,015. And it stays on that debit side. There's more money, and because we added it, we debited it. So depending on what we do here, either we debit it or we credit cash. We keep the balance over on the debit side because we have a positive amount, but we just add or subtract it. So we're keeping a running total of what we have in our cash account or any other account in this balance area. Okay, so that's kind of the tricky part. That's the thing that's new to us this chapter. And we reference all these, of course, supplies. I can't remember what it is. Let me look. Supplies account 130, right there. So we got to make sure we reference back and forth from the general journal to the general ledger, and from the general ledger back to the general journal in case anyone has a question of what we've entered. And those are the basics of 4-2. I think you get the point there, and you can do the rest of it. Go on to do the application problem, or do the work on your own. And that will give you feedback or give you tell you if you're correct or incorrect so that you can know how to do it if you have questions. All right, go ahead.